back to Hidden Home Technology. Again, Matt Peddle is back yet again, this time to hear my dribblings on about the Marten Parker Duo Diamond Edition that he kindly lent me over Christmas. I've had them for, I think it works out as a couple of months or something, as good as listening to them all night, every night. Again, so you'll soon find out what I think of those. What are they? I guess they are one of, in theory, the most sought after bookshelf speakers on the market. I can't think of many bookshelf speakers that are either more premium or, again, better received in general, although there's not tons of press out there on them. Relatively niche.
The standard Parker Duos is quite a number of
the Diamond Edition, there's fewer things out a bit. So what are they? They're a small bookshelf speaker. I say small. My room's relatively small and it accommodates them perfectly well, whether it's an Illusion with the narrow baffle, wider back. But they don't start going into this like slightly strange hybrid speaker that's like a whopper speaker on a stand.
It's not over dominant in the room. It's aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, definitely still less dominant than your average floor stander and things like that. So after the initial getting used to new things in my room, they fell backwards and didn't take up any more space. In fact, actually, come on to this later, but they were very unfussy about positioning towards walls nearby. So actually, I could shunt them back, and I didn't have any noticeable downsides to that at all. They're the Diamond Edition. So you get the upgraded Accuton tweeter, which is a hell of a lot of money in its own right. If you just try to buy them direct from Accuton without any sort of design fees or anything on top. You get a better crossover. So you're starting to get, I think, pretty much every component on the crossover is sort of unimprovable. Sort of as good as it gets. And the internal wiring is Yorma cables. So
the statement edition cables.
So even the last foot of cabling in your hi-fi system is thought about.
We find a lot of people that when they invest in the diamonds, they tend to then go down the line of Yorma speaker cables as well. So you've got the same path.
Which again, like the Dablo thing, I didn't try your Yorma cables you lent me. I will try them now, I think, with the system, back to sort of stability as such, as in not changing bits and bobs, so I can see them in their own right, and exactly what they're doing. But it's two-way design. It is 22 centimeters wide at the front, 28 at the back. So, going to almost a foot wide at the back, 42 centimeters tall, foot and a bit. And 36 centimeters deep, so just over a foot. And they are surprisingly heavy. Doesn't sound it so much on paper, 18 kilograms each. But I picked them up to put them away to get back to the Dynaudio to have that like before and after effect. And they were really quite heavy, heavier than I remember putting them in the first place. Price tag, 19,500, so premium bookshelf speaker. I guess it's competition that I've had personal experience of would be things like the Guarneris from Sonus Faber, similarly priced, similarly sized speaker, made of a high density composite material. I'm guessing it's some sort of variation on MDF with something applied in it to make it less resonant. As I said, the Accuton Diamond Tweeter. I've heard Accuton tweeters in car actually, and that was the most impressive in-car system I've ever heard. It was mad. The guy had tuned it in such a way. It actually had subwoofers in the back that went down to about 8. I don't know what it was, I'm exaggerating now, but it was ridiculously low hertz. The whole car shook. It wasn't in one of those like hip hop style, how much can you handle systems. This was in a linear design.
Nice.
Oh, I say linear, like designed to sound good design. They call it SQ, sound quality in in-car, so it's designed to be good. But it was infinite baffle, so it cut the whole of the back of the boot out where the spare tyre wall was. So the subs vented into the world and played into the car, so you didn't have any of the back wave cancellations. And it was two dual, either 15 or 18-inch subs in the back with thousands of watts on them. And the Accuton tweeters, I think it might have been an Accuton mid-range as well. And it was unbelievable. We played this live track with this blues guy, and there was this crack on the snare. And it literally made you blink. You couldn't not blink, even if you would. It was like a challenge. You could rewind it, play it again, and there was no way you couldn't blink. It was mad. It wasn't in a horrible ear bleeding way either. The Accuton tweeters. Swiftly moving on from the technicals because I guess they're irrelevant. It's all about the sound, really, isn't it? I guess the first note I've got, which I think will ring true through the entire entirety of this review is an expansive sound and expansive sound stage scale, basically. Sorry, expansive scale and expansive sound stage. Like the performance envelope of them as a two-way stand mount, as in how hard can you drive them, how loud can they go, how big can they sound. It's like nothing else I've heard in the two-way speaker. So the Guarneris, for example, when I torture test them, you get port chuffing and stuff like that. None of that. I'll touch on it in a minute again, but I sat on the remote at one point when I didn't realise, and I'd already pressed play on a track, and wow, was that an experience. I'm pretty sure the neighbours are still wondering what it was. It was something else, yeah. I think we were talking about it before this with Jess, who's again behind the camera. Yeah, and she mentioned it as well when she was talking to you about them. Just the scale of them is just unreal for a two-way.
Yeah, completely. I'm quite a fan of a two-way speaker personally. I like the speed and pace that a two-way works.
Yeah,
but the duo diamonds are, to me, they're one of the sweet spots in the Marten range. It's a phenomenally capable loudspeaker.
The bass a bit like the Griffin we discussed earlier in the other review. Watch the other review of our Griffin Diablo 333. It's hopefully it's fun. If it's not, I apologise. But yeah, it's kind of one of those like cake and eat it scenarios with the bass, where it sort of has the speed and lack of like hangover, as in like the notes carrying on when they're not meant to, of a sealed enclosure, so it's got the speed of a sealed enclosure with the extension of a ported, and I think that's the passive radiator thing, giving it a little bit of suspension from the air pressure. The air pressure can get pushed onto that passive radiator, gives it a little bit more room to breathe, but it also damps it somehow, as in like it stops, like a suspension system, an air suspension system, stops that driver getting out of control. So yeah, the bass is so fast, but not in a sterile way either, so again, it's not this like clinical, it's not really their thing, it's all totally there. But it stops and starts when it should. There's that sense of no coloration, no cabinet, no anything like that. It's lovely. And that actually is probably, again, the overriding sensation. No cabinet, no speaker in the sound. It is a sort of colourless speaker from that point of view. I'd say that maybe that is actually, if with extended listening, if every speaker has a compromise, it's compromise. It's almost such a devoid of coloration sound. It's like everything's almost like transparent, like a little see-through. Like you want, where is the body? Yeah. But God, if you're listening for the details, like Jess was saying about female vocals, the breath work, whatever it is, the fine details, they're just astonishing. The amount of extra things I heard, classic cliche, isn't it? Things I'd never heard before. We heard the Badly Drawn Boy introduction. I think it's playing trumpet maybe, but you can hear the little metal clicks on the keys and stuff. Very subtle off on the right hand side. Again, try it on your system, see if you can hear them. With them being pointed out, you probably will but it's the fact that, they hadn't been pointed out to us and they leapt out. Yeah. And, wow, that is something I just hadn't heard. Endless detail. I got key clicks, so clear with lots of O's on the so. Yeah, just like so clear, it's untrue. Again, going back to scale and impact, a song called The Final Episode by Asking Alexandra. It's a sort of metal track in all the sense, double kick drums, all that kind of stuff, but just so big when you crank it with them, and they handle the cranking and they work from everything. And I'll touch on this later, from just like conversational voice levels, like non-offensively loud, just a little bit louder than quiet, I suppose. They come to life and you get this like enormous scale. And again, I said it about the Griffin slightly as well, for use with TV and video, clarity of voices, again, with the system before at low levels, would often have the subtitles on because you've got kids sleeping. They were much less necessary, it'd only be literally if it was the sound was down so much because the kid was refusing to go to sleep that you wanted almost silence, that you'd want the subtitles back on. But as soon as it was at talking levels or whatever, the vocal clarity, the intelligibility of the audio is just unreal. So yeah, the performance envelope thing, played it to you on the Dynaudio's to so you knew what I was talking about. But the Cat Power New York song, it starts with these big drums, like it's a bit like the Everyone Bites the Dust, Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. It's that dun dun thing, but it's on this like reverberant kick drum where you hear the skin resonating and everything. And I had pressed play and sat down and notched the volume right up. I was lucky I didn't blow the speakers up, to be honest. It was that loud, but it was unreal. I've never heard, again, anything like that. You know, often at shows they don't let you get that carried away with the equipment.
No, it's a phenomenally capable speaker. And so the whole soundstage and scale is far, far bigger than the speaker.
The speaker should, yeah, absolutely. And again, if you're going to do the sort of side-by-side comparisons, although it wasn't directly side-by-side, but the Guarneris, there is no way a pair of Guarneris can do that. Yeah. That scale, that volume, without losing any element of control or without presenting any form of hardness or distortion. Yeah. It just, off the charts, clarity, size and scale.
And I think that's one thing that flows through the Marten range across the board.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, we did an event back before Christmas. It was an album launch and there's room for 80 people, I think it was, all sitting down, listening to a vinyl playback of the album. We're using a Griffin Triple 3, funny enough, as the amplifier. But again, the comments from a lot of the visitors that were coming down to listen to the album was the sense of scale. The presentation was just big and open, and so and that was the Parker Quintet Diamonds. So still four-stander.
I mentioned. I'm so bad. I'm like a magician giving away the tricks, but I would, if they would fit in my room, and I'm not sure they do. I think the box is deeper and probably troublesome. So I'd love to hear the trios, because I think the one little compromise I touch on later, I think the trios might well solve. But I've got on the next card, just so free of thickness. Like there is no extra. There's no extra in them ever that's introduced by the sort of sound of a speaker. There's no box. There's no...
It's effortless.
Yeah. There's no stored energy. I think Danny from wherever he's called on online, who does all the speaker upgrades, you know, he's always looking at waterfall plots saying like stored energy in drivers and stuff, or driver resonances that, you know, create the waterfall chart. So there's transients to linger on. You know, if a bass note starts with them, it stops. It just feels like, if you were to do a waterfall plot, I'm not sure it's necessarily true, but if you were, that it would be like the cleanest you've ever seen. It really does just have that feeling of starting and stopping and control of everything. So that's how it gets those fine details. Tweeter is so light and stops and starts. Yeah. The woofers feel the same. They stop and start, grip and control's just nuts. Yeah.
And that's credit to the whole system as well, though. You know, the amplifier and the loudspeakers, that combination, just the grip and control with the bass driver is can always be a challenging.
And in the interest of honesty, the free of thickness might be to a fault at very low volumes. I'm talking like whisper volumes. So again, context, when I'm doing my critical listening, I've got young kids asleep and the master bedroom, well, you know, that makes it sound fancy, doesn't it?
The East Wing.
My bedroom. Yeah, the East Wing. With my 3-bed terrace. The wife is often going to bed before me, or at least before I finished doing this kind of interesting stuff, or, you know, me enjoying my hobby. Yeah. I'm listening to them at like volumes whereby it won't travel through plasterboard or floorboards, you know, so it's that like, you know, if you were to have friends around, you'd be whispering, you can't laugh, you know, not laugh out loud, you know, because it would disturb them. So you're talking about that whisper volumes, that lack of thickness means there's a lack of bloom in the bass notes, that kind of 100 hertz, maybe between about 80 and 200 hertz. There's like the lack of, like sort of fatness on the bones, if you like. So turning them right down, as you turn the volume down, the last thing to go is the bit above 100 hertz or whatever. So that would be my literally only criticism of them. They're very unfussy about placement regarding the bottom end. I think you can definitely get like a toe-in variation massively with like, you know, controlling how much you want the soundstage to focus or open up, and the treble to kind of, I guess, slightly increase on the totally on axis. And I had them sort of crossing over just behind my head. So they were still towed in largely, but I was seeing just slightly more of the inside of the cabinet Yeah, that's right. Just ever so slightly more of the inside of the cabinet. So I could see a little of the taper, the widening out of the cabinet on the left. So it's only just crossing behind me, literally crossing just behind me. So pretty much on axis, not quite. But the bass, I could move them back as close as my room allows me with the bass traps and unit to get into the corner. And they were still tight, fast, punchy, because I was trying to do it to add that bloom back in a little bit, but I just couldn't even get that to be a problem. There is just so much information in them, yet zero hardness.
Yeah.
So that tweeter is like airy and detailed, yet it is not bright or aggressive or sharp or shrill or any of those downsides. It's just
could be quite common with a diamond type tweeter.
Yeah.
Quite often, a lot of people suggest it's going to be a bright forward sound, which
it's not. There might be it might create you to listen higher up the frequency band because there's so much to listen to up there, but it's not that it's forward or it's not like they've turned it up.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether actually some of that like endless detail was actually coming from the amazing crossover. Whether, because again, that Dynaudio was so bad, I've forgotten who he is, but he's brilliant online, runs his own hi-fi manufacturing. But he also does these speaker upgrades with crossover upgrades and stuff to try and sort out poorly manufactured, cheaper, built to a budget speakers to try and get the best out of them. He always puts in, he complains about sandcast resistors and puts in proper audio quality ones, and the inductors, the windings that separate out the frequencies and stuff, he'd always use aircon or iron because the iron absorbs a bit of current and it acts like a sort of capacitor effectively. So it's not as like fast, doesn't release out afterwards, so it creates lag in the waterfalls and stuff like that. But so I'm just wondering whether that like sort of speed, transparency, whatever it is, that lack of coloration thing is coming not just from that diamond tweeter, but actually from the kind of unimprovable crossover.
I think it's a mixture of the components and technology in the brain that the crossover. Because, ultimately that's the key behind it all. Putting the right sort of crossover components in there, just allows the speaker to work in a better, more efficient manner. Yeah,
so I hate it when people try and point the finger at the element of a design that is creating an element in the sound. I don't think it's that simple. It's the sum of the parts, isn't it? But so my brain was off wondering, is it not just the diamond tweeter? Is it something else? It's so easy to say it's the diamond tweeter. I wonder if it's just an epic design and an epic implementation.
It is. It's a very low resonant cabinet. It's great quality drivers, great crossover materials. The whole thing is a well thought out package with no cost spared really.
No, that's what it feels like. It's a literally what can you do with a two-way speaker? I 100% agree with that. Fit and finish is impeccable. Again, a bit like the Griffin Diablo, you sort of look at all the sort of joints between the little inlay for the tweeter and the cabinet. You look at the way the sort of protective grills over the top, because I think they're quite brittle, the driver material. So all the protective grills are beautifully done, all the beauty rings, the corners of the cabinets, the lacquer, everything is absolutely amazing. I think I've put beautiful soundscape on every song. So again, I don't think it's like that horrible detail that on a bad recording suddenly becomes a curse. It seems to somehow present even rubbish recordings in a decent, detailed kind of way. So it's not like a negative there. So I think that's an amazing attribute. I also think it's very well judged frequency response. So I'm going to go back to when you do calibration and stuff of trying to bring down peaks and not boost troughs. Because of dynamic headroom issues, but I don't think that's the reason in this. But I just think they've done that. I think it's very easy, or it's much easier to hear a peak in a frequency response than a trough. And I feel like that's perhaps again another element for why there's that sort of colour-free sound that they've done very well with their judgment of products, crossovers, whatever it is. The implementation of the speaker that's meant that there's no obvious peaks anywhere down that frequency response. Might just be when I was talking about that low bass, there's a little trough maybe somewhere in that warmth bass region. But that would be my guessing and just for fun. I've just got the huge performance envelope, the Guarneri from Sonus Faber being an example of just a speaker that cannot keep up. and I've put I would love to hear the trios, because I think the trios might, with that extra driver, fatten up that little bottom end thing that I keep mentioning at the whisper volumes, and just always be a little thicker speaker. Don't know, might be.
We can sort that out.
Preconceptions of a floor standard, like the judging a book by its cover thing. Maybe it is. I'd love to hear them if they'll fit. They might not fit.
We'll make them fit.
Limited space. Make them fit. Saw a bit off just to get them in. And then going back to the Dynaudios, I was sort of looking forward to the Dynaudios because I wanted that low level listening thing, and they do that so incredibly well. But I plugged them in, turned them on, and the words I've written down are thick, flat, and maybe even dull in comparison. They're a great speaker, the Heritage Special, and they're a lot cheaper. So it is not an apples for apples, but it is a good example of, like, the diminishing returns argument being again dismissed massively, that they can make such a great speaker have those descriptors when you compare them. Like, there is no way on earth before them I would have described the Heritage Specials as thick, flat and dull. No. Ever on earth. And yet now I find myself having written down thick, flat and dull. That speaks volumes to how unreal those Martens are.
The Dynaudios, we listened to them as well quickly before we left, and they punch well above their price point. If you were to ever give an example if you look at compared to a £20,000 stand mount,
they've got limitations.
They have limitations. They're going to. I think the thing that's key to point out is that at this point, they are a phenomenally capable speaker, but the Martens, justifiably show taking a leap up.
Literally.
But it is
it's a leap and a bound. And I guess the other, I think this is my last card. So the other comment was just vocally, just so clear it was untrue. So again, touching on that intelligibility when you're watching films and stuff, which can often be really guilty of, like, needing subtitles, even in home cinema and stuff. Your center speaker's not up to it, or whatever it is about the soundtrack mastering and recording. It's been mastered at reference levels, not at lower levels, or with the whizzes and bangs in mind. I just could so obviously hear loads more. The whats and pardons for what they were saying on screen were just so much fewer. And actually, the sound staging I noticed also was a million times better, the panning. And I will add that to the Griffin review actually now for anyone who's listening to both. That ability to maintain everything and pan with the Griffin is nuts. And I would say the Marten's even more so actually from that point of view. They're like, the precision in the panning was just mental. So when you're watching TV and something happens a little bit off left and a bit off right, even sitting, on one end of the sofa or the other, you still got that
movement
thing, a movement. Just unreal. Any other thoughts, really? Your experience of them, because that's me wrapped up, really.
I mean, what colour would you like?
What colour would I like? I was thinking about this. I quite like the wood finishes. I'd love to see both the lacquered and the not lacquered walnut, because I was worried that the lacquer might show up the fingerprints a bit much and I'd be forever cleaning them and show the dust. Because that was one thing I noticed. We had a lovely little soft robin living on top of the Martens for Christmas, and you could still see its little footprints when I took it off in the dust on the gloss black. So I was thinking the satin wood would look the nicest. I mean,
like I say, all the Marten speakers, the fit and finish are just phenomenal. The wood finishes are brilliant. I mean, we've got the Mingus septets back at the office, and it's £140,000 speaker. But all in the wood finish is just stunning.
Unreal. I think I do like the wood slightly more on the back, although the black goes to the colour scheme of the room. I think the room is lifted, interior design, I think the room is lifted a little by the wood. I think it stops it being so like macho at the front. I think there's something nice about it.
Definitely.
I think that with the stands, it contrasts a little bit on the stand then as well.
You got the dark wood in the Heritage Special as well.
And that works well. So I know it works, So thank you very much, Matt. Thanks for loaning them to me.
Problem.
And again, just last little things for clarity. Not buying them for demonstration, as in, for our reference system just yet. So they will be available on loan to listen to. So call us and we'll sort it out. But as and when finances sort themselves out, yeah, I might well be considering them. I've not heard anything else in its category. It's better. And I think this is, a relatively important point to stress. If I was in the situation of having a shop and looking to stock ranges of speakers, there is absolutely no question they would be there, because I've not heard anything like that. And I can only assume that the speakers around it in the range would be unbelievable. And I would be stocking the Parker range from start to finish.
The standard Parkers are brilliant. The Oscar, the range down, they start around about 6,000 for stand mount.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And when you get up to the high echelons of the range, everything becomes very special then.
Yeah, and also watch the Diablo review, because you'll understand why I can't buy both. Because, spoiler alert, I'm buying the 333. So the first, X amount of pounds in stock investment is going on the Diablo. But that's not to say it won't be going on the Martens.
Video proof of an order now, haven't I?
Yeah, exactly. You have got video proof of an order. Yeah, literally take that as get the ball rolling. Yeah. Anyway, so if you guys could like, subscribe, comment, tell me where I'm wrong, tell me where I'm right. I don't care. Feed the algorithm, like, subscribe, and see you next time. Thanks. Bye.